Dude, I'm snagged.
Welcome back to another episode of Snagged Podcast. Tonight is episode 3. It is February the 11th, 9:16 p.m. And we're just sitting here in, southern Oklahoma, trying to make it through another tough work week. I am your co-host Dean. Here with me is Josh Honeycutt, and we are going to go ahead and kick it off. What's up, Josh?
What's up, dude? I don't know about you. You might have had a tough work week, but I am doing absolutely nada.
Yeah, vacation must be nice right now. I'm
Yeah,
definitely jealous.
not as much fishing as I would like to have been doing as of recently.
Yeah.
But the freeze got us down, the water's got us down. But, I did take the time and I was able to organize some tackle, go through, re-spool some rods, re-clean some reels, do some maintenance, and I even fixed an oldie but goodie.
So you were so bored that you just nerded out even more.
I nerded out fishing. I couldn't get on the water. I did go once,
Yeah.
right after the freeze, and it's still 37-degree water temperature, uh, and it was just not good at all. But hey, I got a lot of stuff done, and I was even able. I even took the time to break apart that Corrado 200G,
Mm,
and I ordered parts for it
I
from
mean,
Shimano.
I'm gonna be honest, that thing, it honestly looked like it had been through hell and back, but it was, I love the paint job on it. It's beautiful looking, but it's definitely, it's definitely seen some war.
It has seen some war. My pops gave it to me, so
Yeah.
yeah, he put it through the ringer, and had some things that needed repair in it. Went through, found the parts I needed, ordered them. That's the best thing. That's what I love about Shimano, right? And we are not sponsored at all by anybody.
Nope.
But one of the reasons I love Shimano is not just because I like their products, but the fact that I was able to go on, find the blueprints, which
Yeah.
are super easy to read, on their website, and then order the parts.
I
And
mean, that just goes to show you how great a quality their stuff is, that it lasts. I mean, that reel is more than 5 years old for
yep,
sure, and it has been tried and true, and you go and, pick up some replacement parts for it, and it is gonna, it's gonna last another
yep,
10 years.
absolutely. And then in other news, pretty much every major fishing organization started tournaments between last weekend and this week.
Yeah, you got
Uh,
the Elite Series, you've got, obviously
MLF,
on the high end, you've
right?
got MLF, you've got BFLs, you got all kinds of stuff
Oh yeah.
going on in the fishing
I
world.
mean, I know them guys, and it was a struggle for everybody. And uh, with the freeze coming through and hitting Louisiana, and that cold weather coming through North Florida like that, definitely, I think probably put a damper on a lot of plans for those
Yeah,
areas. But it actually, them guys had to get out there and show what they were made of, man, and they really did it. They went out there and they put some fish on the board, man. And, there was a lot of pros out there who didn't really get what they wanted, but it just goes to show you, man, that's fishing, and it just this is how it works. Sometimes you're not
that's
going to
the
catch them.
way it works
Yep,
out sometimes. I mean, sometimes you come in with a 25-pound bag, and sometimes you come in with zip.
yep. And then the St. Johns River, man, it flows the wrong way, dude. That thing,
What?
yeah, it's a monster by itself, dude.
That's
And you'll
crazy.
hear them talking too, and like I know it because I used to fish it with my dad and stuff when I was younger. My dad grew up on that river, and uh, it flows the wrong way. You got to work the tides and stuff like that. You have to work the currents. You have to know where to be at the right time and the right weather on that river, on that body of water, and it'll get you, man, if you're not ready for it. But it was definitely fun to watch all those, and I think right now, I think John Cruz is on top for the elites. Man, I can't remember who won the MLF. Whoever won it though, man, good on them, because
Yeah.
I know them lakes are tough too. I saw the bags and they were not what you usually see in an MLF tournament.
Well, and it's kind of crazy because I feel like if it was gonna have a cold front like it did, at the tail end of January,
Yep.
into the beginning of February, it wouldn't have it wouldn't have put down as much snow in the areas that it did. And I mean, it pounded the
Mm-hmm.
southeast up into, the northeast
Yep.
coast. So it definitely turned out to be quite a storm, and it turned into, quite a challenge for those pros. And it it showed what they were made of. It showed,
Yep.
how
Absolutely.
much work you have to put into being a professional
Mm-hmm.
and how serious those guys take it. I'll tell you right now, I love fishing. I love fishing in all weather. It doesn't matter, rain, sleet, snow. But to get out there in some of those conditions they were
Yep.
in and to pre-fish before even getting into the tournament and then fishing in completely different, you know, climate and water temperatures, that must have been a kick in the neck. I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
must have sucked.
There's I know the BFLs are starting up this week. I know for sure. I follow the Gator division more than anything, just because I know a lot of people over in the Gator division. But I wish luck to everyone fishing the BFLs right now out there. But just want to give a shout out too to my pops, Kenny Honeycutt. Good luck, and then a couple of buddies out there, Levi Crossway, uh, Dave Steinmeier, Jesse Taylor, and any of you other guys out there that I missed and just can't think of right now. Good luck to everyone out there, and
Yeah,
bring
absolutely.
some big fish. They're on Toho,
Okay.
so should be interesting. And then next week or next month, the elites are going down to Harris, which is almost right next door, just about. So
Okay.
it's gonna be fun to watch, and that spawn's coming up, and looking forward to seeing what they do.
I'm very ready for the spawn. I'm very ready for, that temperature change to
Oh yeah.
start to warm back up and really get the fish more proactive in their side of fishing.
Hmm. Which is exciting for us because me and you are making a trip this weekend
Yep,
down to Big Ray Roberts
yep.
for the Fish
So
Classic, and that's gonna be exciting.
I'm excited for that, man. I'm really excited to get back into the Texas,
Oh yeah, yeah.
waters. I I love where I'm from, but I'm telling you right now, the experiences that I had in Texas fishing, they're very hard to match with any other place I've fished. And I mean, I've fished in a lot of states all across the United States, uh, predominantly on the East
Hmm.
Coast. I know there's fantastic fisheries in Washington State and things like that, but man, Texas is a whole nother realm all in itself.
The bodies of water in Texas are just fun to fish in general, man. And don't get me wrong, dude. Like up here in Oklahoma, like I've caught my biggest bass,
Yeah,
three
yeah,
times over on these lakes up here in Oklahoma. But it's different, man. It's you kind of look at it like a golfer would look at a golf course or something, you're like, oh man, you see that golf course, I really want to golf on it, you know what I mean? And then
yeah.
you see this golf course, it looks all right, I don't really want to do it, you know what I mean?
I,
But
I,
then you go and get your best golf game on that golf course that you were on that you didn't want to be on type deal.
yep.
Texas is kind of like that, you know what I mean? I've caught some really good fish, some PBs out of Texas, but just the water, bodies of water in general, with all the structure and the just grass and the contours and everything in those lakes, man, is just.
It's complex. It's complex, and it makes it even more of a hunt.
Hmm.
And that's what I loved about it. I loved also how pressured almost every body of water that I went on was highly pressured, and to be able to come into a lake that is fished very regularly and to still be able to pull fish out of it, like that's that feels really good.
Confidence booster, dude.
But then you take the flip side of that coin and you come out here to Oklahoma where, you've got fisheries that you're not usually seeing a lot of fishermen on, and you're not usually seeing a lot of boat action on,
Mhm.
and you get skunked. It's like, what the heck
It's
is
crazy,
going
dude.
on?
It is crazy.
But the water is completely different here. The way it turns over here is
Mhm.
different. The shad die off and then come back and die
Yep.
off, all on very inconsistent patterns. So it makes it really tough to
Definitely,
zero in on the winter here.
it's definitely gonna be nice to get in some warmer water too. It's
You are not
37-degree
lying.
water temperature, man. Like, oh God. But I know down there it's like I was looking at it. I think we're sitting at like 49, 50 right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's it's a good 10 degrees difference. And hey, I mean it's Texas, so the fishing might be different. You know what I mean in that kind of water. But who knows? We'll figure it out, and we're gonna have fun.
Yeah, it's a new body of water for me altogether.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to just getting out there and just enjoying being outside of, behind a desk,
Oh
outside
yeah.
of, being stuck indoors watching TV. It's just going to be nice to get back to nature. It's been 2 weeks since the last time I gone fishing, which, for some people, they go 6 months and they're
Yeah.
fine with that. But for me, I feel like there's a part of fishing that is a part of me. And if I don't get to, enjoy that, then I'm not enjoying myself
And that's what it's all about,
completely.
man. That's what it's all about right there. And then you
And
get to say you fish a classic league, so
yeah, yeah.
that'll
And
be fun too.
I would be remiss if I did not bring up that every time in Texas I fished with my wife in a tournament, that she completely beat my butt. But, you know, she came out there, she showed me how to fish pretty much. But she's got a lot more patience with the techniques she likes to
Oh
use. And
yeah.
we're actually going to talk about that technique
That
specifically
was a great segue,
today.
man.
Today we are
Well,
going to talk
it's a
about it.
it's a big topic, so we're gonna jump right into it, right?
Let's
So
go.
this is one of my favorites. You know that. Um, I have caught my personal best largemouth bass
Yep.
all on drop shot. Um,
Yep.
and it's just one of the most versatile ways to fish. Whether
Yeah.
you're a bank fisherman, a boat fisherman, a co-angler, um, it can be fast, it can be slow, right? It's all these things depending on how you need to fish it. It can cover a lot of water, it can cover deep, shallow, whatever you need it to do.
Yeah.
And that's why it's such a great rig. And this is one of the reasons I love it. And it's one of the rigs that re-taught me how to fish.
Yeah.
Um, as far as uh, you know, versatility goes, right? One of the big things we always hear when we talk about drop shot, right, is the big fish versus small fish scenario, right?
Mhm.
A lot of people, yeah, I like fishing drop shot. The only problem is it catches really small fish. It only catches small fish. Now, there are so many opinions that even I have
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy
on
around
that
that.
whole thing, right? Big fish are going to bite and big fish are going to bite. If you're not using electronics and you're just out there fishing, right, and you
Mhm.
can't see what's down there, how do you know if it's a big fish or a small fish, right?
Yeah.
I can't sit there and say that when I caught my PBs on drop shot that I knew there was a big fish down there.
Oh, absolutely not.
You know
When
what I
I
mean?
caught mine, I had me and the guy I was fishing with, we had absolutely zero clue. Um, and you know, it just it happens when it happens. And I think it's more about presentation than it is about knowing that there's a fish big down there. And,
Right,
like you said, if it's a big fish and it's going to bite, typically that big fish is going to bite a more realistic presentation.
right. And one of the reasons, that presentation is key, right? Because it does so many different things, depending on how you fish it, right? And it's all going to be seasonal on how you approach how you're going to use that technique and fish
Yeah.
that technique. But I mean, you can make that bait act like a crawfish. You can
Yep.
make that bait act like a feeding bait fish. You can make that fish or that bait act like a bait fish that's suspended and just hanging out there, or just a cold water bait. You know what I mean? That
Yep.
it doesn't want to move a lot and it's trying to conserve energy, right?
Yep.
There's so many things you can do with it, right? And that goes into why it's so effective, right? Uh, it's because you can keep it in the strike zone, right? The strike zone, if you don't know, is the area in which a fish sees a bait, right?
Yep.
So in front of the fish's face, I guess is a general statement for that one. Am I
Yeah.
correct on that?
Whenever it pretty much has it in its view.
Right. It's like perfect, like sector, right? And then like fall rates, right? The drop shot fall rate, I think, is a really, really big one too.
Yep.
A lot of the bites I've gotten on the drop shot have been when the bait was sinking,
Yep.
right? And they pick it up while it's sinking because of, depending on the weights and stuff. And we'll get into that and how how that bait's presented to them on a fall. And as I said, it's not just a finesse technique. You can power fish it, basically, uh, with the power shot. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of the power shot, right?
Yeah.
You're just taking that drop shot, you're upsizing the line, upsizing the weight, upsizing your bait and hook, right? And you're moving it a little bit faster than you would normally,
Yeah,
right?
you're agitating the bait a
Right.
little bit faster. You're kind of dragging it faster.
Yep. It's used for fishing thick grass structure, big rocky areas and stuff, right?
Hmm.
When the fish are more active and it catches big fish. I mean, I don't know if I was using a power shot or drop shot at the point when I caught my bigger fish on it, right?
Yeah. So I I have to ask, um, what would you say for the type of hook that you'd use for a power shot? Would you say straight shank? Um, would you say, using the split shot or the, split shot drop shot hooks?
So it kind of more depends for me on the structure I'm fishing, right? If I'm fishing really thick vegetation, right, and I know I'm gonna get hung up if I use a circle hook,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with a straight shank, and I'm gonna weedless hook that worm, right?
Yep. Yep.
Um, I'm starting to figure out a way where I can weedless hook it on a simple circle hook, right?
Yep.
But for the most part, if I'm fishing thick vegetation, even on a power shot, I'm gonna be fishing it with a weedless. If I
Okay.
know it's gonna be
So
real
a
bad,
weedless presentation
right?
regardless, and
Right.
kind of making sure that you hook the bait in a good spot so that it has the ability to still have that
Right.
flat,
And that's the best part about drop shot baits too, is most of the time they're streamlined, so you don't need a wide gap hook or anything,
Nope.
so you don't have that much wire from the hook exposed
Yeah.
when you're fishing it, right? Does it matter to fish? I don't know. I'm not a fish. You know what I mean? So I couldn't tell you, you know what I mean? But the fish see all kinds of stuff on lures and they still bite it, you know what I mean? But I think it's a confidence thing too. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yep.
Um, but those are some of the big reasons it's such a versatile bait. It can be fished anywhere, like I said, from bank, kayak, boat, you know, you name it, you can fish a drop shot anywhere, right?
Yeah.
But let's talk about, kind of where to fish it and when to fish it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we'll go into kind of the seasonal thing, right? It's like I said, you could fish this rig all year long, man. It's such a great rig for every year. Um, And depending on what season it is depending on how you're going to change that style of drop shot, right?
Yep.
My personal favorite times to fish the drop shot from bank or boat is from pre-spawn till about midsummer,
Yeah.
right? Right before the dog days is when
Yep.
I like to fish. Once I get into the dog days, I start getting more into like Texas rigs and jigs and moving
Mm-hmm.
baits a little bit more, right? But pre-spawn to early summer is my favorite time to fish that bait. And where I'm fishing it uh, everywhere. I'm fishing a lot more in shallower areas
I was just
around,
about to say that.
yeah, around from a foot to 8 feet.
Yep.
is where I'll fish it mostly in around that time because it's spawn, the pre-spawn. I'm still deep, right? I'm still in that 12 to 15 foot area,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I'm fishing it almost the exact same way, right, as I would fish it in the spawn and in the early days of summer, right? And depending on if I'm fishing at grass and rocks, is depending on how I'll change the presentation, things from
Yeah, the
weights,
distance,
right?
yeah, for the
Weights,
leader
the
and
leader
everything.
links from the hook, the types of hooks, the types of line I'm using and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then when you start to get into the winter months, right, your fall months, now I tend to use the drop shot in those months as more of a finesse rig, right? Like
Yeah,
it's supposed to be, like it's meant to be used, right?
yeah.
Slow presentation, slow moving, right? Downsizing baits, and
That's when the fish are more
right,
lethargic.
and I
They're,
start pulling back, right? So like late fall, I start to pull back off the banks with it, right? And then go into the little bit deeper water, right? Sort of go back into them offshore points and them ledges that I can find or bluff walls and things like that.
so I would be willing to say that the same way that you fish drop shot in the summer and the winter, I fish them like that during every single season. If I don't find it working well, you know, up on the, you know, more shallow areas, 3 to 6 foot, even like you said, 1 foot. Like I threw a drop shot in like a foot of water with a 1 foot leader. I mean, literally the worm was wiggling on top of the water, and I caught a fish on that.
Mhm.
And then, you know, I've also caught a fish a week prior, and this is during the summer, but a week prior in 25 foot of water and the same leader length, the same exact presentation, but I've got it at a different spot on the lake, on a rock wall, up
Mhm.
on a ledge or something like that, and, 20 foot. Um, so I think, you're absolutely right. More often than not, the summer you're going to be able to fish it a lot more shallow. Retrieve
Right.
is going to be a little bit faster.
Right.
In the winter, slower, deeper bait. But I mean, those techniques, like we've said before, these techniques are the way that they've worked well for us.
Mhm.
But that is just one way to skin a cat.
Right.
So
There's 1,000 ways to work any system or rig that you're using, man.
yeah,
It's
and
yeah.
and I mean, when we are talking about retrieval of these baits, um, like for the drop shot, you can retrieve it, twitching it, letting it sit, twitching it, letting it sit, with, a 5 second interval count, letting it kind of sit there. Because a lot of times those fish, when you twitch that bait, if you let it sit, that's when they're going to attack
Oh
it.
yeah.
And then
Mhm.
on the other side, I've had them, hit it right when it twitches the first time.
Right. And I was
Um,
actually going to get into that too, talking about different types of
yeah,
retrieves that I use personally for grass versus rocks.
yeah,
Uh, and you see me do it too out there on some of these tournaments where grass, man, like certain times of the season, especially when they're active, right? When the fish are active in the active seasons,
hmm,
man, I've thrown it in the deepest grass I could throw it in, and I have ripped it, dude, ripping
hmm,
it through that grass
yeah,
like it's you know,
like it's
a
a Texas.
chatterbait or something, dude, or like you know what I mean, or like a rattle trap or something, or not a rattle trap, but a lipless crank, and they just slam it, dude. They
Yeah,
slam it, and that's how I like to work them in the grass. Like when I'm in that grass, I feel like personally, I feel like that worm has to have a bigger presentation in the grass than it does in the rocky areas. You know what I mean? I feel like it has to have a bigger movement. And I'm talking active fish, right?
yeah,
So I feel like that worm has to be moving around, dancing a lot more while I'm in a rock area fishing, right? A flat area, which is rocks or gravel or what, you know what I mean? I'm driving it.
yeah,
I'm doing a slow drag, pulling it across the rocks,
yeah.
chipping the weights
Yep,
on
you're
those
making the
rocks,
weight
making that
kind of
noise. Yep.
make some noise, and that be more of the attractant,
Yep.
be more of the attractant than the actual movement of the bait.
And
The movement would be kind of the secondary reason that fish would start to hone in.
right, and then you
That
can't
makes
forget
sense.
about the dead stick.
Yeah, I
Can't
mean,
forget about the dead stick.
that's tried and true as well.
Yep.
You can literally throw, I mean, you could say that about I'd say most finesse baits. You can toss a bait out, and if it's the right time of year, it's the right, position where fish are kind of sitting up on, whether it's ledges or up against, structure. If you throw a bait there and just let it sit, I mean, I've had so many bites on that. I've caught so many fish just
Mm-hmm.
like that.
So there you
And
lift your rod.
DROPSHOT does such a good job of that because it keeps the bait elevated off
Yep.
the floor, and you can just let it sit there. The movement of the water is gonna
Right.
allow that bait to flutter and things like that. So the
Right.
action is gonna be without you doing anything.
Yep. They'll kill it, dude.
Yep.
They'll kill that bait. And just the dead stick too, where you just kind of you lift your rod tip on a slack line without
Mhm.
moving your weight. You just lift it up, and that bait's gonna go up and down, or it's gonna wiggle a little bit on the bottom. You know what I mean? And that little twitch, it's enough that stir that fish up.
Yeah.
Right.
So that up and down movement is similar to like how you would action a spoon.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, man, and those are great ways to really just get at it, and different types of techniques you can use when you're fishing those different areas, right?
Yeah.
But now we're gonna talk about some really important stuff, right? Rods, rods and reels, man.
Yeah.
Now I'll go ahead and just start with the reels, right? Because the reels
Yeah.
are, it's a little bit quicker. The rods are more in depth to me.
Mhm.
But reels, right? Typically, I'm fishing on a spinning rod. I couldn't tell you what gear ratio my spinning rod is. I don't know. Probably like
It's
a 5.
slow.
Yeah, it's slow,
Yeah.
right?
You're.
It's a 30 series President,
Yep.
Fluker President. That's what I use on all my spinning setups, right? I like them. They're very they're they're well valued reels, man. I think
Yeah.
they don't break the bank, and
Yeah.
they're really
Cost
good.
effective, and
Yep.
they're very reliable. You've had yours for longer than you and I have been fishing
Right.
together, and I've never seen you have any kind of mechanical
Right.
issues other than, your operator error.
Right. Yeah. Well, a bunch of those in that ice.
Happens to
But
the best of us.
right. But yeah, typically it's going to be on a spinning reel. Not saying you can't fish it on a bait caster, and Shimano actually makes a real good bait caster for finesse fishing. The BFS, the Shimano BFS reel, is a great reel. I've heard. I haven't used it. I would like to get my hands on one. Kind of hard right now, but a great reel, they say, for doing like power shot and drop shot with a bass caster. But
So before that model came out, the MGL that I have, the
mhm.
Corrado that I have, baitcaster is also a finesse
Okay.
baitcaster. So, and that thing is, I mean, it casts beautifully. I use it for Texas, and that's pretty much all I use that one
Right.
for.
Yeah, typically it's going to be on a spinning reel. The reason is because you want to try to use as light of weight possible, being that drop shot is technically a finesse rig,
Hmm.
right? And the spinning reel is able to cast that lighter line and that lighter weight way further. And when you're fishing a drop shot, you want to make long casts with it.
You want to make long casts, and you want your retrieval to be slow.
Right.
And most baitcasters, their retrieval is like 30 inches per
Yeah.
revolution, and versus 8 or 12 inches per revolution for most spinning casts. So it's important that you kind of pay attention to that stuff because fish are going to react accordingly. So
Sir, and then rods, man, the big one, right? Uh, I'm using spinning rods, obviously, because I'm fishing on, spinning stuff most of the time when I'm using the drop shot, right? Not all my finesse techniques are on a spinning setup, but for the most part at this point in my fishing journey, I've gotten away from a lot of spinning stuff, but I will not let go of the spinning setup for my drop shot. And with that, I'm using uh, fast,
Fast tip.
fast action, right?
Oh,
Fast
okay.
tip, yeah, fast action or fast tip, right? Or even an extra fast
Mm-hmm.
with a medium power, right? A medium power rod.
Yeah.
Usually between 7 to 7'4", right?
Mm-hmm.
I know people who use 7'6", and they say it's a great, for what they're doing, right? Especially like deep water drop shotting, right?
Yeah.
That big, so you can get further casts and get that really good hook set
Yeah.
from a distance. But typically, I'm using a 7 to 7'4" medium power fast action spinning rod. Is what
Okay.
I'm gonna go with when I'm out there doing it. Just because, and you want something that has a lot of sensitivity.
Yeah,
Uh,
backbone is not the primary for this. It's more
right.
sensitivity. So, a medium rod is going to have plenty of backbone if it's from a reputable company. Um, and I mean, the big thing about buying a rod completely separately from a reel is if you're going to take the time and make your own setup, for me, it's good to go in there and have someone who actually understands the science behind rods, not just, some guy who works at Bass Pro who, is 19 years old and may not have the experience that you need that input from. So make sure that, if you haven't been able to do your research on your own, that you have someone that may be a little bit more educated on the rods, and,
Yes.
and bringing yourself uh, educated will allow you to make a more cost-effective decision versus someone who doesn't really necessarily know exactly what you need and they're just looking to sell you something for, whatever price.
Knowing how that rod is built and knowing the material used for it
Yeah.
is, that's a great point you brought up, man, because like that's going to really show you how much sensitivity is in that rod.
Oh yeah.
Especially, because I'm not going to go into detail about rod building or anything, but ever since I started rod building and
Mhm.
doing all the research and learning about different graphites and carbon fibers and all that stuff and different kinds of glass and whatever they're making it with,
Mhm.
you learn a lot about these rods, how they're built, what
Yeah,
they're
the
made of, and
science.
why they're so sensitive, right?
Yep.
And we'll have to do an episode on all that one day and talk about how sensitivity, how to check your sensitivity. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
in the meantime, y'all have any questions on that? Y'all feel free to hit us up and ask us on the social media for sure.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
Going into rods and reels too, man. I know it's something you wanted to talk about. Dean brought up a good point when we were talking about preparation for this episode. Hook sets and drag, right?
Oh yeah.
Hook sets and drag. Drop shot, right? Depending on what hook you're using, and
Mhm.
let's just say you're using a circle hook, which is
Yep.
what a majority of people are going to use is a circle hook,
So
right?
so real quick, just so everyone has the same understanding. So a circle hook is another word or, way of saying a split shot or a drop shot hook. So if you see on the packages when you're looking for a drop shot hook, it's either going to say one of those three things. It's going to say circle, it's going to say split shot, or it's going to say drop shot. The big thing is ensuring that you're not buying some massive hook too, because it's a finesse technique. Unless you're fishing, a power variant, I would definitely look at keeping it at like a 1/0. That's, to me, that's a perfect size.
Like, I mean, and you're right. And as far as like using those on that hook set, like I grew up fishing in Florida,
Hmm.
heavy grass, heavy structure. So I grew up just ripping lips, dude. Like my
Yeah.
dad taught me how to rip lips. So bend down into it, uh, put all your power into it. You know what I mean, and get that center of gravity. You're not going to do that with a drop shot. And it took me forever to learn not to do that, right?
Yeah.
And with the line setup that you're going to have, which we're going to go into, That is the reason why. The only thing you want to do is you want to reel into these fish and give them a slight pull, right?
Yep.
It's the best thing I've figured out.
So you're gonna take when you realize that you're getting, some attention from a fish,
Hmm.
you're gonna start to feel the taps on your line, and if you have any slack in the line, you need to ensure that you get it out without being too forceful. And you're saying once you have all the slack out, you're going to give a slight pull up or back.
Right. Slight pull while you're reeling into them.
Yep.
You got to reel into them because that hook's going to do all the work. And if you have the right rod set up for it,
Yep.
that rod's going to do the work with the hook,
Yep.
and you ain't going to miss some fish at all.
Yeah, good thing about what you had just said about, the rod doing a lot of that work is if you have too much backbone, like we were saying, the the rod itself is just too hard, whether it be, a heavy or a medium heavy, a lot of the times it's not going to be able to have the flexibility to set the hook and or not necessarily set the hook but position the hook in the fish's mouth prior to you setting up the hook, um, that you need. It's
Right.
just going to pull the hook directly out of the fish's
Right.
mouth because it doesn't have the flexibility of a medium.
Exactly. Drag is another big key to it. When you're fishing this rig, you don't want your drag as tight as it can be. And the reason for that is if you're fishing the way I do, or the way most people fish the drop shot, they're using a leader, right? So if your drag's too tight and you go to pull up, you're going to break that leader, right? So you want that drag a little bit loose, right? And also for me, I like the drag loose because I use this a technique where I will release line from the drag,
Mhm.
right? And or open the bail and
Mhm.
release line when I'm out there fishing, just to let the bait stay in the water a little bit longer, right?
Yeah.
And that drag, especially when a fish bites and starts to pull your line, right? Because with drop shot, you want to let them take it a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So I don't want to have to open my bail, right? Click the bail open, make a bunch of racket, the fish get off, let go of the bait, right? So what I'll do is I'll pull the line out of the drag while the
Yep.
fish is running with it, right? A little bit to let him take it to make sure that he's really got it before I set the hook,
Yeah.
right? So that drag makes a big difference when you're fishing a drop shot with that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
then,
I think it's good to ensure that your drag is not too tight, but it's not too loose. So,
right,
there's like a sweet spot and
there
you
is.
have to kind of learn it yourself. But I have to say, man, I've seen you set a hook on a freaking drop shot and it does not look like you're being sweet with that line at all. So, you can, you know, put some back into it, but
Yeah,
you just need to be, you need to remember that you're using light line that does not have the tensile strength of, 20-pound or 30-pound,
right.
so.
And as far as line goes, my my line of choice, man, is I use a 10-pound braid, right, and then I tie a fluorocarbon leader to it, right.
Yeah.
Uh, a lot of people, will tend to go a little bit lighter on the braid, right? They'll tend to go a little bit lighter on the braid. D just showed me a package of some beautiful fluorocarbon that he's holding right here. But they tend to go a little bit lighter on the braid, but you got to remember 10-pound is the equivalent to 2-pound mono or
Yeah, the
fluoro, right?
diameter of
Yeah, diameter, and it's
it's
super strong, right?
super thin and super strong
And
compared to, the 2-pound crap.
the braid is for castability,
Mhm.
right? And for visibility. That's what I use it for,
Yeah.
right? Castability and visibility. I'm usually using yellow line. Don't worry about the color of your braid. The fish aren't going to see your braid if you have a leader on it, right?
Yep.
Now we go into, I think, the most important part when it comes to the line. your leader, right?
Yeah.
I use fluorocarbon. The reason I use fluorocarbon is because, oh, I'm sorry, let me reverse here. Braid is also some of the most sensitive stuff,
Yeah.
right? Sensitivity is another thing, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it gives you that. It gives you a lot more sensitivity than mono and fluorocarbon
Right.
would. So I agree that,
So.
and I can't believe I didn't catch that. I was just mesmerized by hearing you talk. That's what it was.
And then but the fluorocarbon leader, that is for keeping, uh, making the line not visible to fish, basically,
Yep.
right? It's keeping that visibility away from the braid, right? And yeah, you're like, well, if fluorocarbon is not, sensitive, but braid is, like, well, that fluorocarbon is projecting that shot through the braid.
Yeah, the
That's how you're able to do it,
reverberations
right?
being sent all the way up, and there's such a small amount of the fluorocarbon. I mean, and don't get us wrong, fluorocarbon is still sensitive.
It is.
And it's more sensitive than monofilament because monofilament has a lot more stretch.
Right.
So fluorocarbon, there's almost no stretch, which allows it to be a little bit tougher to work with, um, in terms of, when you do set the hook. Sometimes you'll snap it off,
Right.
if you don't have your stuff dialed in absolutely right.
Dialed in, or you're not changing your hooks out or whatnot, changing your knots and stuff. But
Checking your line after every fish.
and as far as my leader size goes, for like the line itself and diameter, I'm usually using not diameter, but the test, right? I'm usually using, I use 8 pound test. That's my magic number, right, for my fluorocarbon leaders.
Let me see what this
Depending
is.
on the conditions, right? If it's, tough winter conditions, you might want to go lighter, right, down to 6. And there's people who even use 4. Man, I was listening to a thing with Ned Katie,
Hmm.
the guy who,
For the
the
Ned
Ned
rig.
rigs and Ned
Yeah.
Nectar and all that stuff, man. He uses 4 pound fluorocarbon line, dude.
One of the guys that we used to,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yep.
we used to fish in the tournaments with, he used like 4 and 6, and he'd snap
Rich,
off all the
Rich,
doggone
hey
time.
Rich, if you're watching, what's up, man? Watching, if you're listening, but yeah, he caught a damn 40 pound catfish on that stuff, dude.
Yeah,
Like
it's
4 pound
crazy.
fluorocarbon. He'll probably correct us.
Yeah, he was over at, he was in Tennessee when that happened.
Yeah,
And it wouldn't surprise me if he caught it on a drop shot
he
either.
caught on a Ned rig.
Oh,
It was a Ned
was
rig,
that
I
what it
think. Yeah,
was?
Ned rig. Anyways, but yeah, like, I mean, you can go lighter, but like, I think 8 pound is the magic number for me. Now, if I'm fishing thick stuff, thick vegetation, I'll go up to 12, but I won't go any higher than 12.
See, for me, I'll run high vis braid, like you said, probably 20 pound because I like to have a little bit more, a little bit more of a grace. And I I had to check because I don't even know, but um, I've been using the Sniper FC
Oh yeah, dude.
Sunline, the
That's all I
12
use.
pound,
Yep.
12 pound, the diameter for the 12 pound is equivalent to,
Is it 8?
it says, well, it doesn't say,
Yeah, I think it's
but
8 though. I
it's
think, yeah.
literally 0.0112 inches diameter. So it's like extremely
Yeah.
thin. And it's, so the one thing that I have to say, I have to bring it up, the Sniper FC, from Sunline is typically thinner than other
It is.
fluorocarbons too. So if you are willing to spend, I don't really feel like it's much more expensive, maybe $1 or $2, when you're buying these smaller spools. Once you buy the bigger ones,
Yeah.
you're going to pay a little bit more. But I mean, I've got a, what is this, 200 yard spool. I think this thing was probably $15, and it lasts forever.
I mean,
It's strong and it's thin.
compared to monofilament, it is a little bit more on the pricey side,
And I
but
know
it's
about
definitely worth it.
strong, thin stuff. Trust me.
Yeah. But Yeah, that's all I use, Sunline FC
Yeah,
Sniper for everything. It's usually at least, you can think of it as, if you buy 12 pound, it's going to be the equivalent size to 8 pound, but the strength is going to be to,
probably
14.
probably 14,
So
15.
you're definitely getting your money's worth out of that line if you're really getting into fishing. Not to say that you can't use monofilament as a leader. I've done it when I first started doing it. That's what I was using, monofilament as a leader. But
I was doing the same as
and
well. I didn't have any
I caught
real like guidance when I
right,
was tying on leaders,
right,
but I was still catching fish. Um, but I definitely noticed a difference in the diameters for
yeah,
sure, and the sensitivity being a lot better from
absolutely.
fluorocarbon leader
And
versus
then if you can't get
monofilament.
it, I know Sunline's a little bit hard to get a hold of in most stores. I know another good brand that I like is I like the Trilene.
Yeah,
The Trilene fluorocarbon, straight 100% fluorocarbon. That's usually what I go to if I can't get a hold of Sunline at the time.
Daiwa's got
Daiwa too.
some good fluoro. I think what's another fluoro company? I'm having a brain fart, but I would say Braid. Um, I I freaking love Seagar's. Uh,
Seaguard. Okay, yeah,
Seagar has great
that's
braid
the
and they
back,
got
right.
great fluoro. Like
Seaguard's the
that
backup.
company is awesome.
Seaguard, yeah,
Between Sunline and Seagar,
yeah.
that's my
So
go-tos for sure.
Seaguard's the backup if I can't even get Trilene, and I'll
Yeah,
get Seaguar. But if I can't get any of it, man, I'm just digging up whatever I have left. I'm
yeah.
taking it off, old reels or something and figuring it out. But as far as line, that's pretty much, the gist of it. And um, yeah, and this is, why we talked about our drag and stuff, because usually you're tying, how I tie my leaders, I tie them with a
Uni to
uni
uni.
knot, right?
Yep.
And there's a lot of people who use all kinds of knot. What is it, like Albertas and FG knots and all kinds of.
Dude,
I, there's
they're
so many
endless.
knots, and so many people say, this knot's better than that knot. This knot. Look, whatever you feel like tying is on you. I like the uni knot. It's simple, quick,
It is
easy.
very simple.
It takes a little bit of practice, but like it's, compared to
It
like the FG knot, I think it is
the
like,
FG I
oh
feel
my
like
God,
is
dude.
pretty
I
tough
mean,
to
I guess I need to learn it,
remember.
but
I have to say the uni to uni knot is this for simplicity reasons.
right.
It is the best, and it also uh, so you may hear some of the line from the uni to uni knot not going
You will. You
through
will.
your guides, but I mean that's nothing. That's not gonna you know destroy
Right.
the knot.
And I think that's what really gets people too about it. And it might. I don't know if it. Like I said, it might. I don't think it destroys it real bad. I think a lot of times when I'm breaking off, it's my fault, right? And
Yeah,
you're gonna break it off, but I mean, you need to retie. Like if you're fishing, like hardcore fishing, you really
yeah.
need to tie your knots anyways. You need to retie them anyways. You know
I
what I
will
mean?
tell you, I did tie a FG knot on my Texas rig because I started running braid with a fluorocarbon leader for my Texas rig too on that Corrado I was just talking about.
Yeah.
And that FG knot is, I mean, it looks ugly because of the braid to
Yeah.
fluoro, and I've got yellow braid like you run too, and it looks ugly, man, but that thing, I don't hear it going through the
Yeah.
guides. So that is kind of a nice thing about the FG. But, at the end of the day, that's how much work you really want to put into learning new knots.
Right.
That's up to you.
I like fishing too much, man.
Yeah.
I guess I could spend this whole last week doing it, but whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
priorities, man.
And then we'll talk about, now we're going to talk about hooks and baits, and this is going to be a real quick run through. We've already kind of talked about hooks, but hooks, right? I've gotten to the point now where I mostly, like I said, use circle hooks. We talked about this before, and I know Dean was upset with me. Um, but circle hook or drop shot hook, right? And specifically, the kind of hook I like to use is the VMC wacky hook, 2/0 or a
Okay.
1/0 wacky hook. Uh,
A wacky
It's
hook?
called the wacky hook.
That's
It's actually a
crazy.
wacky rig
Yeah,
hook.
yeah.
but I use it for drop, and it is amazing, dude. It's the best hook I've found, right? When I'm using my straight shank 1/0 worm hooks, a thin wire worm hook, I'm usually using owner because I love owner hooks. I love
Yep.
the sharpness. I
Yep.
mean, it doesn't matter about the sharpness because I'm sharpening them anyways, but just them hooks, I don't bend any of these hooks ever. Like,
Yeah, no.
they don't bend. I have not bent an owner yet, but I like the VMC wacky hooks either in 1/0 or 2/0, depending on the size of the bait I'm using or how
So,
finesse I'm trying to be.
so for me, I'm going to have to say, for the circle hooks, I'm going to have to say I really like the owner hooks as well. Owner hooks are money, and not meaning price tag money, but like they are just a awesome, company, and I've got zero ties to them, and I would, love to have some kind of partnership with them
I'd love to
because
have
they
partnerships.
have literally got a awesome product. I've never bent an owner hook, like, period, end of
Yep.
story. I I haven't found any, straight shank that I'm really married to. I know for a fact Gamakatsu makes some okay stuff, but I've bent their
Yeah.
hooks a lot. Um, so it's hit or miss. I'm not saying that I'm the strongest guy in the world because I'm 100% not, but some of the metals that they're using just don't really hold up well. So just once you find that brand that works well for you, just try and, stay true to it, because if it's not doing, if it's not doing you any justice, you might as well stick with it.
I think one of the big reasons that I kind of dialed in to that circle hook pretty much for every application
hmm
is because of how hard it was to find a 1/0 straight shank thin wire owner
I
hook.
thought it was going to be because you knew that I enjoyed using them and you
Yeah,
just wanted to be more like me.
that was the other reason.
Okay.
But
That was
yeah,
really the primary reason, but you didn't want to say that first. I understand. I understand, man.
we're never gonna live this down.
Um,
What about baits, dude? What's your top favorite drop shot bait?
oh man, I love the Kitex. They've got a Kitech drop shot worm, or it's like a drop shot minnow. Those things have got some crazy action, and some awesome colors. I don't know the specific name, but I guarantee if you type in Kitech drop shot, you're gonna find exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I think they're not longer than 4.5 inches long. I mean, they're very
yeah,
short, but they are super cool. Dream Shot, obviously, we
great one.
kind of hit that in one of the other episodes, and then oof, pass. Come back to me in a second. I think I've got one more in me.
Well, I'm gonna tell you mine. Good
Zoom.
old Zoom
I
Trickworm, man.
knew
The
Zoom.
Zoom Trickworm has
It
been my go-to drop shot bait,
Trickworm
right?
Junior or Trickworm?
Trickworm, straight
Okay.
Trickworm. Yep. So I kind of use it. It's a seasonal basis for me, right? But most of the year when I'm drop shotting, it is a Trickworm,
Mm.
and it's just the present. I don't know what it is, man. I've caught all my biggest bass on that
What
Trickworm.
color? I'm just
Well,
curious.
when kid, ask them, well, hey, what's your favorite color? I usually tell them green pumpkin.
Mm.
That's my favorite color. So,
Yep.
and it's going to depend on the water color, obviously. But when we're fishing, green pumpkin is my
That.
go-to.
Mm.
But once we start to get into fall, I start to kind of shorten the presentation. I'll go to a finesse worm, a Zoom
Mhm.
finesse worm,
Mhm.
and then once we start to get into the winters, I like the KVD Dream Shots, and I do like the flatworms. It's kind of the same presentation as the Dream Shot, right? But the flatworms, the Berkeley flatworms, got the max
Yeah.
sink.
Yep.
I've caught more fish on the Dream Shots, excuse me, but I have caught a good amount of fish on the flatworms in like really tough conditions, and that's pretty much my go-to baits on the drop shot, man. Like I won't really stray away from those. It's either going to be that trickworm presentation or that flatworm or, you know, dream shot, that leech style presentation
Yeah,
as far as, you know, those things go. And oh, robo worm. I cannot
bro,
say no. That
that is
robo
a
worm has come in clutch,
that is
dude.
a
On the weirdest
awesome
on the
bait.
weirdest freaking days, dude. A
That's
morning
so
dawn
funny.
robo worm has
I
just come in clutch, dude, especially on Belton, man.
I knew in my head that I had another one in me, and I was gonna throw out
Yep.
another one, but that was the actual one I was thinking about because they make that color green weenie.
The green
The
weight,
green
dude.
weenie, bro, that is a tried and true, literal fish catching color,
Dude,
bro.
green weenie, morning dawn, and then Aaron
Yep.
Martin's the Aaron
I think there's another one called AA3 or AM3 or something like that. It's another Aaron Martin's
yeah,
color, and that one is super
the
cool.
green
I
one, the Aaron.
this one's got like 4 different colors.
I might have to get back to you. I can't remember the name of the Aaron. It's not Aaron's morning dawn. It's like the Aaron Martin special. It's like a green, but it's got a blue like felt back on it and like some weird. It's so
I think
weird,
they have
dude.
one called like tequila or margarita or something
I see.
too.
That's a cool color,
That's a
dude. That
really
yeah,
sweet
yeah.
color.
But dude, just a morning dawn on that really bright green water on a sunny day, dude.
Yeah,
Like, especially like Belton Lake was big. Like Belton Lake gets that neon, almost neon green color,
yeah,
right? On a sunny, high sun day, dude. Like when the water's as calm as all can be. That morning dawn will slay, dude.
yeah. Morning dawn on a good clear
Robo
afternoon
worm.
too, on frickin' on
Yep.
Stillhouse. I remember, oh gosh, such good times. I know that we're coming very close to our hour. I don't want to keep, people too terribly long, but um, I have to say, you said the flatworm, and it immediately sparked me fishing with you a couple weeks ago when I caught that like
Yep.
2.5, 3 pound, 12-inch fish, and I was using the RPG Outdoors, their little trick
Oh yeah.
worm, or their little flatworm, and that is a super super cool, um, bait profile. It looks just like the flatworm, but it almost has more texture on the back of it. Um, and I think it was like, it almost looked like uh, green pumpkin, red flake on the top of it, and it had like a black belly. And that was one of those days where
Yep.
that was the only bite that both
Yeah.
of us got. So,
And if you haven't heard about RPG, definitely take the time to check them out. They're out of was it Belton? Belton,
yeah,
Texas.
Belton,
Yeah,
Texas.
Belton. They do custom pours and stuff, and they're really good. They got really good products. So
Yeah, they
take the
do.
time, check them out.
Yeah, RPG Outdoors, just could not say anything bad about the product or the people who are making it. Um, so, yep, definitely give them a check. We'll definitely be dropping probably a little link or something like that in the description for today's episode.
But
Also, one other thing I have to say is, I mean, this is probably one of the last few episodes we're going to do before we part ways.
yeah, but you know,
So
we're gonna get this figured out, dude. We're
they're
not.
no longer going to be episodes where you and I are co-located.
Yeah,
That is going
it's gonna
to
be weird. But dude, this is how we're gonna keep in touch, man. This is how we're gonna keep talking fishing, right? We're gonna figure it out.
we're going to keep the fishing
Keep
alive.
the fishing alive.
So next week we're going to cover fluke fishing, and that is going to be kind of, I'll take the helm, and I'll be giving some of my insight on it, and it's going to be from some experience that I've had in tournament fishing with it, and then also some experiences I've had with it, just fun fishing. And I'm excited to kind of go over it. I really am.
I'm definitely looking forward to the fluke fishing episode. Looking forward to learning some new stuff, and well, that just about wraps it up, huh?
Yeah. I think we'll be back in probably another week and a half. We'll try and put something back out, and please feel free to reach out to us on the social media platforms. We always, are trying to check up on it, remain, vigilant, and keep in contact with the listeners. It's important for us to, get feedback from you all as well. And hopefully you guys have a good rest of your week, and we will see you next time.
Have a good one.